Okay, another Wusik Station 10 video coding and coding some more. What I'm trying to do now is figure out the layers. I have added multiple layers to test now. I have layer 1, 2, 3, and here I have a variable that I set if the first three layers are visible, and as soon as I start scrolling, the layers they're going to be invisible, so they're not going to be drawn anymore. So only the layers that are completely visible is draw. Actually, just any portion of the layers, if it's visible, is going to be drawing the background and the labels. Then I'm going to have another code that's going to check if the parameters, the knobs and buttons and text are also visible, that are going to be drawn. So that's going to speed the interface a lot. You can see here the screw positioning as I move the mouse wheel, or if I use here scrolling. It's not working correctly yet because it has to move according to how, how much it needs to move. So now it's just moving one by one pixel by one pixel. Actually, I think it's 8 pixels by 8 pixels, but I don't remember. So at least this is working. I just have to adjust now the bottom area. So I have to check if the bottom is also visible. So how am I going to do that? Let's check this thing out. So the bottom goes after all the positionings. Should be I should I should be able to create actually. Let me check where I'm creating the structure for the the layers. Um, Maybe I'm going to have to create another one called bottom Y, because the position Y already taking account for the layer screw positioning. So I can use that to draw the bottom, but I need something else to check for the bottom. So it should be something like that. Bottom Y. It's going to be the height of the bottom area. So I just keep adding the layers height, and then at the very end, I check if it's in if it's visible actually. But now I have to check the size of the bottom. So it's cached images. Cartoon. Then the positioning height is going to be Y. That should be it's layer overlay bottom. It's not cached images. Sorry, that's the actual images, the layer overlay positionings. Now it's correct. Then we set the layers 0 visible and draw the bottom part. Okay, let's check this thing out. Because by default, I think the bottom is not showing. Yeah, it's not showing. I have to screw up. It shows. Okay, it's showing. First layer is still visible, then the bottom starts showing. Then the first layer goes away, then the second, then the third. Then the mod keeps showing until I move it off screen. Of course, this is not going to happen. It's going to stop as soon as I hit around here. But there's another thing I want to check because this is drawing all correctly. Let me put my overlays back. More and not the visibles. Well, I can leave that for now just to check, double check, because this should be working correct. Then I can remove these layers visible because I won't need that anymore. So what I did see that is a bit problematic is the overlay from the layers part. And I see it was not the right size. It's just a small thing, but I would like to correct this now. If you look here at the bottom, let me put in full screen. Refresh this. Oh, I'll close it. It's that on. Okay, now it's showing. So on the very bottom, I can see that the overlay is not correctly sized. So I have to resize it a bit to really match that bottom area. So let me take a print screen of that. Put my editor, then I can measure it of how much I need to move that. Not a lot, but it's in there. Or maybe I just can put a black background because I can see that it's fading to black. But it's around 3 pixels, I would say. Let's open the overlay, the original overlay. On the layer overlay. Here it is. It's not the. This is the layer overlay with some text for the knobs that goes on the top of the layer. Another thing. So I'll just call overlay. And yeah, there is a space there. So I did mess up a bit. Not a big deal, but let's fix that. Cut and paste it so it's easier to move it. Especially in a such 4K image. Okay, now it's snapping to the bottom correctly. And I just need to copy guys up. Those 3 pixels seems. Just copy. Oops, I have to select the right layer. Okay, that's correct. Then I go on the other side and do the same thing again. 3 pixels. And there we go. Now it's correct. Merge visible, save. And I'm just going to save. Oh, crap. I hate when that happens. I mess up all the menus. That's okay. Not a problem. And I'm going to make a copy to the cached files too. So skins, defaults, cached, background layer should be the guy. Take a look. See anything? It's not showing anything. Oh, it's overlay. That's why. That's the one. Just going to copy over it so I don't have to reprocess all the files. And now it should not bleed some of the other stuff after the bottom line here. Because when you're working on window mode, that line is very useful. But there's another thing that I also noticed. The right line is a bit faint. Okay. So I'm going to check the sizes. Check something first. So I can see the width of this file is 2160. And let's check the background. What's the width? 160. So that's correct. Um, Maybe it's just because it's a bit narrow here compared to the other side. That's a bit more visible. So maybe it's not really a big deal. But let me check the size of my screw bar because it's redrawing the area. But it's drawing on the top the decal, so I'm not going to mess with that. Should be okay. Okay, I have 3 layers here. Going to just for testing, I'm going to add another layer here. That's the place I'm adding the layers in the construction of the plugin. I can add other types of layers too, so really test to get more space there. For now, I'm just going to leave like this. Then the bottom layer. We have the bottom layer. Bottom layer is the first one. I put in reverse because in my code, the master section is always layer 0. So for me, this makes a bit more sense anyway. So not a big deal. But you can see that you have a lot of room to screw now with 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. So what are you going to do now? First, you can remove all this stuff that I was using. The code is working. I'm not going to need that anymore. I can disable this ugly font that I'm using. It's not ugly, but I'm upscaling this 8 times, so it looks just terrible, but it's just an internal test font. So it's not a big deal. Then I can remove the layers visible variable. I'm not going to be using it anymore. All these I don't need it anymore. So the next part is to figure out when to stop scrolling the layers. So that comes next. And another thing I want to do um, is screw bar code is to make it handle the mouse wheel code, so I don't have two codes separated. Just a bit better. Not a big deal, but not going to have this anymore here. Neither going to have this in here. So let's take a look at the widget that I created for the screw bar. I have mouse drag, mouse down. And I'm going to check the components widget, which is the top one. I have created the mouse wheel, and looks like I have created a mouse wheel. So I'm just going to use that instead. And I'm just going to put in here because it's going to be a very simple code. Oh, I copied the wrong one. I copied the mouse move. It's the mouse wheel. But I will have to worry about another thing. But right now, I'm going to leave the mouse wheel for everything. Anywhere that you use the mouse wheel is going to change the layer. But when you open the file editor, the Trivial file Trivial file browser, the one on the right from Wusik Station version 9, which I'm also going to redo a bit because I want it in a different way. So when that is active and the mouse is on top of that, it's going to use the mouse wheel there instead. Otherwise, it's going to use for the layers. And there's another place that's going to be when you open the full screen, not the full screen, but the full editor for the sample player, for the wave sequencer, and others. The mouse wheel is also going to work there instead. So I should have. I'm not going to do that in here, but at some point, I know I'm going to have to worry about the mouse wheel in another place instead. So for now, I'm just going to leave like this in here. Where is my components editor? Screw bar, mouse wheel, the distance, the modifier flags. Where I'm storing, I don't recall. I know that I have a variable for that, so let me check. Key modifier flags. That's the one I'm looking for. We can check if it's using shift or control or anything like that. So okay, now the mouse wheel is passing directly to the component. Ooh. And well, I'm not going to leave it here because I'm going to make several changes to this one. So let's go to the widgets CPP file. You have the render, have the mouse drag. Now I have the mouse wheel. For now, I'm not going to care about the modifiers flag. because I'm not caring about if shifting contour is being held, but I do care about the distance. I have the screw position in total, but we also need total's distance. I remind myself now where I'm setting. Check. What's not in here is when the oh, because when I created a list of layers, I have the layer screw height. That's going to be the total size of the layers. But I need to calculate a few things now. Let me see. If I'm not mistaken, I passed this to the widget. So I passed the screw positioning total and the current screw positioning. What is the total distance that I don't remember? Ah, okay, this is an internal use. Okay. Travel screw position and the total screw positioning. Then you have the total, and the screw position should not be higher than the screw maximum height. What is the maximum height? Check. I should put more comments on the code, I know. Especially for stuff like that, but sometimes I forget. Okay, let's see. Layer background positioning height, that's the screw position maximum height. Height. Already checked its height. So I'm just going to put this the layer background positioning. So it's the size of the rectangle that shows all the layers being screwed. So now with this in mind, I can do some math. So the highest that I can go when scrolling is the check. Do for the mouse wheel first. Have the height. And the screw position in total must be higher than that. So if screw position is higher than the space we have, means we can actually screw. Otherwise we can't. And so far, how far can we screw? It's going to be the total minus the screw height. That should be the right math in this case. And on the mouse wheel, we do the same thing, but instead we go like screw position equals screw position plus these things. I have to check then if how long is the distance going to be, and if it's going to be positive or negative. I think it's negative, but I have to check because scrolling down moves up, scrolling up moves down. That's how my Windows computer at least works. Let me get some water. Okay, that seems to be almost perfect. But I can see here on the bottom that I need to change a bit the height of the layers area in the skin file, skin settings, layer, scroll bar, size of the height. Let's try with removing 10 and see how it looks. Hmm, no difference. So either put in the right place. Let me check the code. What's what it's using actually, so I don't go blind on this. So I'm using the layers background positioning, and it's someplace layer background. Okay. So what's layer? What's that one for? Well, I'm not going to worry now. But I'm curious now. Oh, it's no longer being used. Oh, I have to remove that because it's an old code that's just not being used in it anymore. I can go and search just to be in the safe. Yeah, it's not being used anymore. I changed it to layer background. So okay, what else just changed now? 2028 to 2020. Test this out. It doesn't seem to have changed anything. Right, 2000. Yeah, now it's bleeding a bit. So now I can calculate how many pixels I need. I'm going to take a print screen and check. Yeah, that's my stream program right there, OBS. Just in case you're wondering what I use. So it's very easy to see. Should be 3 pixels. Let's try that. Three. Yeah, that's perfect for me. At least I think so. Just 1 pixel more because I see that it's a black line showing up. Not a big deal, but I don't want that. But it seems to be one in the top. But no, let's put 4 instead of 3 and it should go away. It's just nitpicking, I know, but I'm not what people would say, how to say, what's the word? Perfectionist. But I do tend to get caught in, uh, in stuff that takes me longer to do. Sometimes I just get caught in the moment and but anyway, looks good now. All the layers are scrolling correctly and they are not being draw where it doesn't need to be drawn. So let's say all this background here, as soon as it goes away, there it's not being drawn anymore. And also pretty sure that OpenGL gel is not going to draw parts of the graphic is not in a visible area because I'm not using extra buffers, just drawing directly to the buffer, the main buffer. Seem, Seems to be okay now. So the next part now is the mouse drag scrolling that's not working correctly because I haven't coded the rest of the code. And also the rendering of the scroll bar thumb, so it gets smaller as we have more area to scroll. So to do that, trying to think how I'm going to do that. To have the thumb size, it's the height of the whole thumbnail area minus the up and down arrows. Those are fixed. But what I can do is same way I'm doing here. If the screw position total is higher than the visible area, I can make the thumbnail a bit smaller. For that, what I could do, I could just go divide the total area by the number of screens. That will give me a basic idea. I'm going to make those numbers float. So I can make a division and get a floating point in return. And then I'm going to divide also float thumb size by that result. So I'm going to put that like this. And I'm going to make the thumb size smaller depending on how many layers you have to screw. Let's see what happens now. You can see that it's already smaller. It's drawing correctly, but there is one small problem. Positioning now is not correct, so we have to fix that. Okay, you have the thumb size now. You have the positioning, which is, let me see, this I think is the one that's not correct. Have the total height minus the thumb size, then the screw positioning total divided. What I'm doing here? Times the screw positioning. Okay, so I have the total height minus the thumb size. Screw positioning total, which is the trying to figure this one out. Let me just check one thing first. I'm going to remove all the extra layers, have just one layer, and see how it fits in the window, because it should not. And that's what I was afraid. It's scrolling one pixel, and I don't want that. Just silly to screw one pixel. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put just -1 for those cases that it's very close. Even 2 pixels should be okay. Okay, now it's not moving anymore. Shows the full thumb there. Going to put back all the layers, even 2 more. See how small goes. Then I'm going to put a lot more to see until it goes very small. It's screwing it the right way. So there are a few problems in my. I think this here now. Let me first fix the positioning here, because this is not correct. This is the one that's presenting the problems. Because I am changing the screw positioning, which goes pixel by pixel, where the screw positioning total is all the pixels that goes to the bottom. Okay, so I'm dividing the height of the minus the thumb size. It's not should be working. I'm getting a float number in here just in case. So I'm going to go on another float. The last thing I do is pass an integer. Then to the screw positioning. It seems to be correct, my idea at least, but I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something in my logic. um, I want to check something. What's what's the result of this? Okay, why it's always that's weird. I think I know what it is. It's the mouse wheel. Um, and Distance is not 0. Forgot to add that. Otherwise, the mouse will always make it repaint when it shouldn't. I'm glad I found this now. So, okay, one time. Okay, check. That's the size. I'm probably missing something very simple that I'm not seeing, but who knows? I'm going to check everything. Because here on the rendering, I just do like that, so it is correct. I'm just going to comment everything out. So the first part, the top of the scroll tab is going to show, which gives me an idea of it's the other code. It's not a that's the problem. Okay, the thumb is in there. And it's moving very fast. It's moving so fast now. My gosh, that's the problem. I forgot to separate the division and the subtraction. Now it should be correct. Or not. What the hell? It's doing the math in the correct steps. So I have the screw position total. Let me go and go like that. I want to check what's the result of show of the position in Y. Have the total height minus the thumb size. Zero and zero. Oh, it's all zero, that's correct. $600. Why 600? So the screw position 130. That's the total. That's the height of the thing. And that's the resulting positioning Y, which is totally incorrect. Why is it doing like that? I think I'm doing the division in the wrong order. I should divide the whole area. Oops, it's not it. Have to divide the whole area by the number of screw positions and then multiply it by the screw position. I think that's correct. Yeah, I was doing the other way around. So let me put back the other portion of the code. Check if it's drawing correctly. One, two, three, four, five, 6 layers. Okay, it's almost perfect, but you can see that it's not going all the way down. Some size. Now the problem should not be. Well, just for the sake of testing, I'm going to divide the whole height. Things. Oh, Reaper. See what happened. Interesting. Let's put more layers. Yeah. Working perfectly. We're going to now put less layers. Check. And just one layer and check again. I just like to double check everything before I continue, just in case. Because I have to fix a problem with my mouse dragging movement. I'm not passing the positioning, and now I need the positioning because the screw bar thumb doesn't work like a knob that you move up and down to increment. Not like that. Check now my widgets and drag distance. Yeah, it's missing the positioning. Check. Open. Well, so far it's just the screw bar that's using, so it should be fairly easy to fix it. Is it widgets? Going to put positioning, then the distance, then the button and everything else. Okay. Screw bar. Because I'm not going to use this anymore. This preview screw positioning and neither the total distance. I'm just going to move accordingly to where the mouse is. And we don't need the mouse down anymore. So another place I need to fix it, where it gets called mouse drag. What is the value? VX. That should do it. Then I go back to my widget. Now I have to calculate. So it's going to be screw position in total, just like here above, divided by height. Remove a bit of this parenthesis. Correct. Okay. It was basically like this. Is it the total area that I'm going to calculate times the position of the mouse, but minus the position of the component. These should give me and now I can put this on the screw positioning. X. The advantage of this is that oh, I forgot to put the mouse click, so it only works if the mouse up and down. Looks like oh again I put it wrong. Me rethink the whole thing. Now I did the wrong order. Actually actually like this. Because I want the screw thumb to be changed when you press on it. Usually that's how most screw bars there is. You press here, it goes there. But I want it to go to the place instantly. Okay, now it's more correct. Yeah, it seems to be working. In some codes, the thumbnail of the scroll bar, the thumb of the scroll bar, not the thumbnail, is going to be centering the mouse, but it's not a big deal. Is it's working? Allow me check all the layers, and I'm going to check now with less layers if going to process correctly. Yeah, it seems okay. Just the up and down here are not working. I have to add to the skin files an option to include that area. It's add a lot of layers. We go crazy now. Well, not so much. It's loading the interface already. Okay, it works with several layers. I can see that the thumb, the middle of the thumb is almost not drawn. There is a small glitch there. I'm not going to go crazy on that because after all, this is a lot of layers. Usually, we're not going to have more than 8 layers, I would say. Very rare to have more than 8. Especially now that you can add more sound generators to the same layer. You can add multiple sample players to the same layer and not have to create a new layer just for that. Compile again without all the extra layers. Okay, I didn't change it. But for now, everything seems to be working in the areas that I want, at least. And what we need now is to start positioning all the knobs, buttons, and stuff like that. And I'm going to have to worry about a few extra things. But you'll see as the next step. Just think on something else right now. But that's pretty much it. What's going to happen is that, let's say I have a knob here, the frequency knob, frequency button, if you want to say. I will have to pass to the button also the two background grounds, the fixed background and a moving background. So when you click on the knob and start messing around with it, it's going to redraw, but it has to redraw the both backgrounds. So it's going to be some extra work, but at least it's going to not worry about all the background of everything. So it draws much faster, especially with OpenGL. And the same things happens when a text here needs the background and then the background behind it. And it gets worse with the knobs here on the top because they have overlays that goes over the knob. So I have to also worry about that. Right now, the components already have an option to pass a background. Like this one, this guy here already has a background attached to it. So when it draws the whole background for this whole area here. So there's no glitching or anything like that. The same thing goes for the preset name here. It has a background already assigned to it. But when it goes to the scrolling area here, it gets a bit more complicated because of the two backgrounds, the fixed and the moving. And on this skin particularly, you don't see too much of the effect of the fixed versus the moving background, but you can see when it starts to scroll slowly, you can see that it does a nice effect of two dimension, something like that, two dimensions. So okay, this is it for this video. I'm going to take a break now and maybe come back later or maybe tomorrow. So again, thanks for watching.